The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 1. Alan Freeman stood at the large window of the space station, watching the stars. Behind him, his small team moved around the room, checking equipment and talking in low voices. This was a big day for all humans. For the first time, Earth was sending someone to talk to aliens from other stars. Alan had been picked because he was good at talking to people and finding peaceful solutions. Before becoming a diplomat, he had been a soldier for 20 years. He knew how to stay calm when things got tough. The leaders of Earth thought this mix of skills made him the right person for the job. The ship that brought them here, the ESS Horizon, was the best Earth could build. It was waiting nearby, its sleek shape barely visible against the black of space. The trip had taken 3 weeks, even with the new engines. Now they were at Nexus Station, a huge ring-shaped building floating in empty space where the Galactic Conclave met. 5 minutes until the meeting, sir, said Diane Wells, Alan's assistant. She handed him a small tablet with his notes on it. Alan nodded and straightened his blue uniform. The patch on his shoulder showed Earth's flag next to the new symbol for all humans, a simple circle with a small dot in the middle. How do I look? He asked. Like someone who's about to make history, Diane said with a small smile. They had learned about the conclave 10 years ago, when strange signals were picked up by radio telescopes in South America. At first, people thought it might be a natural space event. Then the signals started showing patterns that could only come from thinking beings. 6 months later, the first alien ship appeared near Jupiter. The aliens called themselves the Tyranni. They were tall blue beings with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. They came in peace and told humans about the Galactic Conclave, a group of 17 different alien species who worked together to keep peace among the stars. Now, after years of talking only through messages and videos, the Conclave had invited Earth to join. Alan's job was to make sure humans got a fair deal. They're ready for us, said Jack Porter, the team's security chief. He was a strong man with a serious face who kept his hand near his weapon, even though they were told no weapons would be needed here. Alan took a deep breath. Let's go meet the neighbors. They walked down a long hallway with walls that seemed to be made of flowing metal. At the end was a large round room with a high ceiling. In the middle was a table shaped like a star with 17 points. At each point sat a different kind of alien. Some looked almost human. Others were very strange. One was a cloud of purple gas inside a clear container. Another looked like a big spider with glowing eyes. The Tyranni representative waved all 4 hands when he saw Alan. Welcome, Ambassador Freeman, said a voice in perfect English. It came from a small floating ball in the middle of the table. I am the voice of the conclave. I will translate all speech in this chamber. Alan bowed slightly. Thank you for inviting us. Earth is honored to be here. He noticed some of the aliens whispering to each other. The largest one, a being with red scales and yellow eyes, was staring at him with what looked like anger. This was a Vexari, the most powerful species in the conclave. Alan had been warned they might not be friendly. Please state your request to the conclave, said the voice. Alan stepped forward. I come on behalf of all humans to ask that Earth be allowed to join the Galactic Conclave as a full member. We bring new ideas, resources, and friendship. The Vexari made a sound like rocks being crushed. The human speaks of friendship, yet their ships have weapons, it said in a deep voice. Alan kept his face calm, but he felt worry growing inside him. This was going to be harder than he thought. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 2. 3 weeks passed on Nexus Station. Alan Freeman spent his days meeting with different aliens from the conclave. The station's artificial day and night cycle kept humans on a schedule, but many alien species never seemed to sleep. Alan sat in his quarters, looking at notes on his tablet. The room was plain with just a bed, desk, and chair. The walls could change color based on his mood, but he kept them blue. It helped him think. "We're making progress," Diane said as she entered the room. She placed a cup of coffee on his desk. It wasn't real coffee, but something the station food makers created that tasted close enough. "The Medusan delegate has agreed to support our membership request," Alan said. He took a sip from the cup. "That makes 5 species on our side now." The Medusans were one of the oldest species in the conclave. They looked like floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. They had been kind to the humans from the start. "What about the Vexari?" Diane asked. Alan shook his head. "They still don't trust us. I met with their junior diplomat yesterday. He kept asking about our military forces and weapons research. The Vexari controlled the most planets in the galaxy. They had been the first species to travel between stars more than 10,000 years ago. Most other aliens followed their lead in the conclave votes." "Jack thinks they're spying on us," Diane said in a low voice. "Jack thinks everyone is spying on us," Alan replied with a small smile. But he knew his security chief was probably right. "Have you noticed how some conversations stop when we enter rooms?" Diane nodded. "The Terrani told me that the Vexari are worried about how fast humans have developed technology. It took other species hundreds of years to go from simple flight to space travel. We did it in less than 100 years. They think we're dangerous," Alan said. A soft sound came from the door. Jack Porter stood there with a serious look on his face. "Sir, we have a problem," Jack said. "The Vexari ambassador has called for a special meeting of the full conclave. They say they have important information about Earth." Alan stood up quickly. "When?" "It starts in 20 minutes, Jack said. "And they didn't invite us." Alan frowned. This was unusual and against normal conclave rules. Find our Terrani friend. See what he knows about this. 15 minutes later, they walked quickly down the main hallway to the conclave chamber. The Terrani diplomat Zenith met them at the door, all 4 of his arms moving in what humans had learned was a sign of worry. "This is not good, Ambassador Freeman," Zenith said. "The Vexari claim they have proof that humans are developing weapons that can destroy entire star systems." Alan's face showed shock. "That's not true. The Vexari are powerful, and many species follow their lead without question," Zenith said. "You must be careful in there." They entered the chamber together. All 17 alien representatives were already seated. The Vexari ambassador, a huge creature named Drex, looked at Alan with cold yellow eyes. "The human arrives," Drex said. His voice sounded like growling. "Good. He should hear the evidence against his kind." Alan stepped forward. "Evidence of what?" "We have hidden nothing from the conclave." Drex pressed something on the table. A large image appeared in the air above them. It showed what looked like a human space station, with strange devices pointing outward. "This is a human weapon platform," Drex said. "Our scouts found it hidden near the edge of your solar system. It is designed to create artificial black holes that can swallow entire planets." Alan stared at the image. He had never seen this station before. "This is not ours," he said firmly. "This image must be fake." Several aliens began talking at once. Some sounded afraid, others angry. "Silence," Drex shouted. "The evidence is clear. Humans are too dangerous to join the conclave. I call for an emergency tribunal." Alan felt a cold feeling in his chest. He knew what a tribunal meant. The conclave was moving to judge all of humanity. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 3. "This tribunal is against conclave rules," Alan said firmly. He stood in the center of the chamber, facing the semicircle of alien representatives. "Any accusations must be investigated fully before judgment. You need to send a team to Earth to check these claims." The Vexari ambassador Drex made a sound like stones grinding together. "We cannot risk waiting. If humans have such weapons, every moment we delay puts all our worlds in danger." Alan looked around the room. Some aliens seemed unsure, but most nodded in agreement with Drex. Fear was a powerful tool, and the Vexari knew how to use it well. "At least allow me to contact Earth," Alan said. "My government can prove these images are fake. No communications will be permitted until the tribunal reaches a decision," Drex announced. "This is for security reasons." Alan glanced at Jack Porter, who stood at the back of the room. The security chief's hand moved to his pocket, where he kept a small emergency beacon. With a slight nod from Alan, Jack pressed it. If things went badly, Earth needed to know. Zenith, the Torani diplomat, rose from his seat. "I request time to examine the evidence properly. The Conclave has always valued fairness over speed." "The evidence has been verified by our best scientists," Drex replied. "But if you insist, we will give you 1 Earth day to review it." Alan felt a small bit of hope. The Torani and a few other friendly species might find problems with the fake evidence. But as he left the chamber, he saw how many aliens avoided looking at him. They had already decided. Back in his quarters, Alan's team gathered around a small table. "They're going to find us guilty no matter what," Diane said, her voice low and worried. Jack nodded. "The security around our quarters has doubled. They're calling it protection, but we're basically prisoners now." Alan looked at the ceiling, thinking, what would the punishment be for developing forbidden weapons? "Depends on the tribunal's findings," said Sam Wilson, the team's expert on alien cultures. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. But for serious violations, they might expel Earth from consideration for the Conclave. "That's not so bad," Diane said. Sam's face grew serious. "They might also quarantine our solar system. No space travel allowed. They would basically lock us in our own neighborhood forever." Alan frowned. Earth wouldn't accept that. "There's a worse option," Sam added, his voice even quieter now. "In the most extreme cases, the Conclave has eliminated the leadership of problem species." The room went silent. "You mean execution?" Jack asked. Sam nodded slowly. "It's only happened twice in Conclave history, but both times, they executed the representatives as a warning to their home planets." Alan took a deep breath. "If that happens, make sure Earth knows the truth. The Vexari are framing us because they fear how quickly we've advanced." The next day, the tribunal reconvened. As Alan expected, the friendly species had found problems with the evidence, but they were outnumbered. "The images show technology that couldn't possibly work," Zenith argued. "The power requirements alone would be impossible. Your science experts do not understand human technology," Drex replied. "That is precisely why they are so dangerous." After hours of debate, the Conclave leader called for a vote. 12 species voted against Earth. Only 5 stood with the humans. Drex looked at Ellen with cold yellow eyes. "The tribunal finds humanity guilty of developing prohibited weapons technology. As the representative of Earth, Ambassador Alan Freeman will face execution as a warning to his people." Gasps filled the room. Even some who had voted against Earth seemed shocked by the sentence. "You can't do this," Alan said, his voice steady despite his fear. "Earth will not accept such injustice." "The decision is final," Drex said. "The sentence will be carried out tomorrow at first light." The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 4. Alan spent his last night in a small cell. The room had only a bed and a small window that looked out into space. He sat on the edge of the bed, thinking about Earth and all the people he would never see again. A soft sound came from the door. It slid open, and Zenith the Torani entered with 4 guards behind him. "I am sorry, my friend," Zenith said. His blue skin seemed darker than usual. "I tried to change their minds, but the Vexari control too many votes." Alan stood up. "It's not your fault. But you know this is wrong. The evidence was fake." Zenith's 4 hands moved in a pattern that showed sadness. "Some of us know, but we can't prove it fast enough." The Vexari pushed for quick action because they feared giving Earth time to prepare. They think humans are dangerous. And this will prove we're not. Ellen asked with a bitter smile. I have a small gift, Zenith said. He held out one of his hands. In it was a tiny silver device. It will take away the pain. You won't feel anything when it happens. Alan took the device. It was cool against his skin. Thank you. But I need to feel everything. Earth needs to know exactly what happened here. What Alan didn't say was that he already had something inside him. Before leaving Earth, doctors had put a special implant in his brain. It recorded everything he saw, heard, and felt. It sent these recordings back to Earth using quantum signals that couldn't be blocked. His people would know the truth. The next morning, guards came for Alan. They put him in restraints and led him to the execution chamber. It was a large round room with seats rising up on all sides like a theater. All 17 conclave species were there to watch. In the center of the room was a small platform with a glowing circle around it. This was where Alan would stand. Above it hung a metal device that looked like a large lamp. This machine would break apart all the atoms in his body. Drex the Vexari stood nearby. Ambassador Alan Freeman of Earth, you have been found guilty of representing a species that creates forbidden weapons. Do you have any final words? Alan looked around the room. He saw fear in some alien faces, sadness in others, and what seemed like pleasure in Drex's yellow eyes. I do, Alan said, his voice strong and clear. He wanted to make sure the recording would be good. Earth did not create the weapons you claim we did. This execution is based on lies. But more importantly, you have made a terrible mistake. The room was very quiet now. Even Drex seemed interested in what Alan would say. Earth does not abandon its own. Alan continued. What happens next is on your conscience, not ours. You think this display will frighten humanity into submission. You're wrong. Drex made an angry sound. Enough threats. The sentence will now be carried out. Alan stepped onto the platform. The circle around it glowed brighter. He stood tall, looking directly at the Vexari. Remember my words, Alan said. Remember that we gave you a chance for peace. Drex pressed a button on a control panel. The device above Alan hummed with power. A field of energy surrounded him, lifting him slightly off the ground. Alan felt pain beyond anything he had ever known. Every cell in his body seemed to scream. But he did not look away from Drex. He did not beg. He wanted Earth to see his dignity in his final moments. The pain grew until suddenly there was nothing. Alan Freeman, the first human ambassador to the stars, was gone. His body had been broken down into basic particles that floated in the air like dust. Drex looked satisfied. Let this be a message to Earth. The Conclave has spoken. But even as the aliens began to leave the chamber, the quantum signals from Alan's implant reached Earth, and Earth was already responding. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 5. On Earth, in a deep underground room beneath the North American continent, Admiral Sandra Hayes watched a large screen. The room was filled with military officers and government officials. Everyone was silent. They had just witnessed Alan Freeman's execution through his neural implant. Sandra's face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the edge of the table hard enough to turn her knuckles white. She had known Alan for 15 years. They had trained together for first contact missions. The signal ended at 7:42 hours, said a young officer named Ben Kelly. The implant transmitted everything until the moment of death. President William Carter stood up. He was an older man with gray hair and a face lined with worry. Admiral Hayes, what is the status of Protocol Lazarus? All systems are ready, sir, Sandra replied. Her voice was calm but cold. We can activate at your command. The room grew even quieter. Protocol Lazarus was the most secret military plan in human history. When aliens were first discovered, Earth's leaders had prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. For 10 years, unmanned stealth ships had been sent to every major system in conclave space. They executed our ambassador based on false evidence, President Carter said. They didn't even allow a proper investigation. The conclave cannot be trusted. He looked around the room. I am authorizing Protocol Lazarus. Admiral Hayes, you may proceed. Sandra nodded and pressed her palm against a scanner on the table. Voice authentication required, said a computer voice. Admiral Sandra Hayes. Authorization code, Eagle Shadow Delta 9. The screen changed to show a map of the galaxy with many small dots representing the hidden human ships near alien worlds. Activating Protocol Lazarus, Sandra said. Across the galaxy, hundreds of stealth platforms woke up. They had been floating dormant, using no power, appearing like small asteroids or space debris. Now they came to life, their advanced systems powering up. In the conclave execution chamber, the aliens were still present. Many species had rituals after an execution to show respect for justice. Suddenly, all communication devices in the room began to make noise. What is happening? Drex demanded. Who is broadcasting without permission? Every screen in the chamber lit up with the image of Admiral Hayes. Her face was stern, her uniform perfect. I am Admiral Sandra Hayes of Earth's Defense Force. You have executed Ambassador Alan Freeman on false charges. We received his final transmission moments ago. Drex looked shocked. Impossible. No signal could leave this chamber. You underestimated human technology, Sandra continued, just as you underestimated our preparations. Since our first contact, we suspected the conclave might be hostile. We prepared accordingly. The screen showed images of the stealth platforms now active near every major conclave world. As we speak, Earth forces have disabled all military installations on the Vexari homeworld. Your defense grid is down. Your weapons are offline. Panic spread through the chamber. Aliens rushed to communication devices, trying to contact their worlds. No civilians have been harmed, Sandra said. Not one. But we could have destroyed your civilization entirely. You killed one human. We chose restraint. Drex's yellow eyes widened with fear. This is an act of war. No, Sandra replied. This is justice. The Vexari leadership will stand trial for murder and conspiracy. Evidence of your false accusations will be presented to all species of the conclave. The screens then showed images of Earth's hidden fleet appearing throughout conclave space, hundreds of advanced warships that no alien intelligence had detected. You thought humans were weak newcomers to space, Sandra said. You were wrong. We watched. We listened. We prepared. And now you will learn that humanity does not abandon its own. The Vexari guards in the chamber suddenly found themselves unable to move. Their weapons stopped working. Small flying devices appeared around them. Ambassador Freeman's final message has been sent to every world in the conclave, Sandra said. The truth will be known, and justice will be served. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 6. On the Vexari homeworld, confusion and fear spread quickly. In the capital city, the great defense towers that had protected the planet for thousands of years went dark. Military ships floating in orbit suddenly lost power. Government buildings found their security systems offline. Yet civilian areas remained untouched. Power still worked in homes. Transportation systems still ran. No human weapons fired on the population. In the royal palace, Supreme Leader Corax, ruler of the Vexari, watched screens showing Earth ships appearing throughout his system. These ships were unlike any he had seen before. They were sleek, dark, and seemed to bend light around them. How did they hide such a fleet? Corax demanded of his military chief. Your reports said humans had only basic space travel. They deceived us, the military chief said, his scales turning pale with fear. They showed us only what they wanted us to see. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a man with brown skin and short gray hair. He wore a black uniform with silver markings. Supreme Leader Corax, I am Captain Luis Ortega of the Earth Defense Force. The man said, Your military capabilities have been neutralized. We request your immediate surrender. Korax hissed with anger. Vexari do not surrender. We rule the Conclave. We have dominated space for 10,000 years. Your rule ends today, Captain Ortega said calmly. We have evidence that you falsified charges against Earth. We have evidence that you have done this to other species in the past. Back on Nexus Station, chaos had erupted in the conclave chamber. The small flying devices had surrounded Drex and other Vexari officials. These devices projected energy fields that kept the aliens from moving. Zenith the Tyranny approached one of the devices with wonder on his face. Such technology. We thought humans were centuries behind us. Other conclave members were receiving messages from their homeworlds. Earth ships had appeared everywhere, but not a single shot had been fired. No world had been attacked. The humans had simply shown that they could have attacked if they wanted to. This meeting is now under new leadership, said a voice from the doorway. A human woman entered the chamber. She was tall with dark skin and short black hair. She wore a blue uniform similar to the one Alan Freeman had worn. I am Captain Olivia Baker, new representative of Earth, she announced. The previous conclave leadership is relieved of duty pending investigation for murder and conspiracy. Drex struggled against the energy field holding him. You cannot do this. The conclave has rules. Rules you broke when you executed our ambassador without proper evidence, Captain Baker replied. We will now show you how justice should work. The center of the chamber changed. The execution platform where Alan had died was replaced by a large table with many seats. All species will have equal representation, Captain Baker said. Evidence will be examined fairly. No single species will control the others through fear. Several aliens stepped forward, including Zenith and representatives from 4 other species who had voted against Alan's execution. We support this change, Zenith said. The Vexari have controlled the Conclave through threats for too long. On Earth, Admiral Hayes and President Carter watched these events unfold through live feeds from the human ships. Phase 1 complete, Sandra reported. All strategic points secured. No casualties on either side. President Carter nodded. And the Vexari conspirators. Being detained for trial, Sandra said. Captain Baker is establishing a new conclave leadership structure based on equality rather than power. Ellen would be proud, President Carter said quietly. He always believed peaceful cooperation was possible. Sandra's face showed a hint of sadness. He also knew force might be necessary. That's why he agreed to the neural implant. He knew his death might not be in vain. On screens throughout Earth, people watched recordings of Alan's final moments. They saw his courage as he faced death. They heard his final words. A new phrase began to spread among humans. We do not abandon our own. Across the galaxy, alien species learned an important lesson. Humans preferred peace, but they were prepared for war. And their vengeance, when provoked, was both precise and instant. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 7. 2 days after Earth's dramatic show of force, a special meeting was called on Nexus Station. Representatives from all 17 species gathered, but this time the room looked different. The star-shaped table was gone. In its place was a round table with equal seats for everyone. Captain Olivia Baker stood to address the group. The old conclave ruled through fear. The new conclave will be built on respect and truth. She pressed a button, and a large screen appeared. It showed images of ships and technology far more advanced than what Earth had previously shared with the aliens. For 10 years, we have hidden our true capabilities, Olivia explained. When we first detected your signals, we studied them. We learned your languages before you knew we existed. The aliens whispered among themselves. Many looked surprised. Some seemed afraid. We discovered something troubling, Olivia continued. The Conclave had a pattern of eliminating species they considered threats. At least 3 promising civilizations were destroyed in the last century after they refused to be controlled. She showed evidence recovered from Vexari secret files. records of entire planets being quarantined or attacked because they developed too quickly or refused to follow Vexuri rules. We knew we might face the same treatment, Olivia said. So we prepared. Zenith the Tyranny spoke up. But why show only basic technology when meeting us? Why pretend to be less advanced? We wanted to see your true intentions, Olivia replied. If we had arrived with our full fleet, you would have greeted us with fear, not friendship. We hoped the conclave would be fair and just without being forced. A representative from a species called the Nuveri stood up. They looked somewhat like tall, thin humans with purple skin. How did you place so many ships in our territory without detection? Olivia smiled slightly. Earth developed stealth technology centuries ago. What we showed you was a small, outdated part of our capabilities. The ships we sent to your worlds have been in place for years. This caused more surprise among the aliens. They had believed humans had only recently achieved space travel. Your transmission technology is also beyond our understanding, said another alien. How did Ambassador Freeman's neural implants send signals that our systems could not detect or block? Quantum entanglement, Olivia explained. Particles linked across any distance, unaffected by normal space. We've used it for communication for over 100 years. The former Vexuri Ambassador Drex was in the room too, but now he sat in restraints, guarded by small flying robots. If you are so advanced, why seek to join the conclave at all? You could conquer us. Olivia looked at him with calm eyes. Because humans prefer cooperation to conquest. We want to trade ideas and culture, not take territory. We hope the conclave shared these values. She walked around the table, looking at each alien representative. Earth could have responded to Ambassador Freeman's execution with destruction. Instead, we chose justice. We disabled your weapons but harmed no civilians. We exposed corruption but offered reform instead of revenge. The aliens seemed to consider this. Many nodded slowly. The trial of those responsible for falsifying evidence and ordering the illegal execution will begin tomorrow, Olivia announced. All species will participate in the judgment. This will be the first act of the new conclave. As the meeting ended, Zenith approached Olivia. Earth has changed everything in just 2 days. The Vexuri ruled for thousands of years, but humans transformed the galaxy overnight. We've had practice rebuilding systems of power, Olivia said. Our history is full of tyranny and liberation. We know that true strength comes from cooperation, not control. Back on Earth, a memorial service was held for Alan Freeman. His image was displayed on screens around the world. People left flowers and candles at government buildings. His final words became famous. Earth does not abandon its own. In orbit above Earth, construction began on a space station. It would serve as a neutral meeting place for the new conclave, replacing Nexus Station. Its name was simple: Freeman Station. The galaxy executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation was instant. Part 8. 6 months after the dramatic events at Nexus Station, the galaxy had changed completely. The new Freeman Station orbited Earth, its great ring-shaped structure now the center of interstellar politics. Representatives from all 17 species had offices there, working together on equal terms. The trial of the Vexuri conspirators had ended with clear verdicts. Drex and 5 other high-ranking officials were found guilty of murder, false evidence, and abuse of power. Their punishment was not death, but work. They were sentenced to help rebuild the worlds their species had harmed over the centuries. On a viewing platform of Freeman Station, Admiral Sandra Hayes stood looking down at Earth. Next to her was Zenith the Tyranny. "Your world looks peaceful from up here," Zenith said, his 4 arms moving gently in a pattern that showed respect. "It wasn't always peaceful," Sandra replied. "Humans fought each other for most of our history. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. Perhaps that is why you chose restraint instead of revenge," Zenith suggested. "You understand the cost of war better than the Vexuri, who only ever fought others, never themselves." Sandra nodded. Alan believed that too. He said our greatest strength wasn't our technology, but our experience with both war and peace. They walked together through the station's main hall. Along one wall was a large display showing images from across the galaxy. Planets, stars, and alien cities appeared and changed every few minutes. In the center of the hall stood a statue of Alan Freeman. His face was calm and determined, just as it had been in his final moments. "The Medusan delegation has made an interesting discovery," Zenith said as they walked. They found ancient records suggesting humans visited their world thousands of years ago. Sandra smiled slightly but didn't confirm or deny this. Earth had released only some of its secrets to the galactic community. Some truths would wait until full trust was established. "The new trade agreements are working well," she said instead. "Earth's medical technology has already helped cure diseases on 12 worlds. And your entertainment. My young ones are obsessed with your movies and music," Zenith said with a sound like gentle laughter. "Cultural exchange may prove more powerful than any weapon." They reached a large door marked with the new symbol of the conclave, a circle of 17 stars surrounding a central light. Inside was the council chamber where representatives from all species now made decisions together. The meeting was about to begin. The topic was a newly discovered species on a distant world who had just invented radio technology. In the old conclave, the Vexori would have decided their fate alone. Now, all voices would be heard. President Carter of Earth was visiting the station today. He entered the council chamber and took his place among the alien representatives. He carried a small box made of dark wood. "Before we begin," President Carter said, "I would like to present something to the council." He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver pin, the one Alan Freeman had worn on his uniform. Ambassador Freeman believed in cooperation and understanding between different species, President Carter said. He gave his life for that belief. "This pin will be displayed here to remind us all of the cost of injustice and the value of peace." The representatives stood in respect. Even the new Vexeri ambassador, one who had opposed Drex's regime, bowed his scaled head. Across Earth and throughout the galaxy, the story of Alan Freeman and Earth's response became legend. It changed how species viewed humans. They were not just newcomers to space. They were protectors of justice who came in peace but possessed great power. A saying spread among the stars: "Treat humans with honor, and find no better friend. Treat them with dishonor, and find no worse enemy." And on Freeman Station, in a quiet corner that faced toward distant stars, a small plaque displayed the words that had become Earth's new motto in galactic affairs: "We do not abandon our own. We prefer peace, but we stand ready."